Good morning to you, Lagos, and thank you for staying with us. You are listening to Smooth 98.1 and this Smooth Breakfast with Kylie Baker.
And Valentine Ohu.
It's time for us to go into a freshly pressed 981. It's a program that brings you detailed analysis of our newspaper stories this morning. And joining us is Devo Okere. Good morning, Devo.
Good morning, Lagos.
Cool.
Cool. The labor of our brave will not be in vain.
Very interesting. And of course, joining Devo to do analysis of these stories is Bolaho. He's at Mr. G Quest on socials. Good morning, Bolaho.
Good morning, Valentine, and good morning, Lagos.
Good morning to you, Lagos. And here's how you can reach us on the show.
You can reach out to us on WhatsApp. The number to do that is 0809 444 0981. Once again, it's 0809 444 0981.
You can tweet at Smooth981FM. Use that hashtag in your messages. Freshly pressed 981. That is the hashtag. Let's start very quickly with you, Bolahan, for the story on Punch newspaper. Bolahan, the headline reads: Acting Inspector General of Police Adamu reverses Idris last-minute postings. So we heard a few days ago, actually 2 days ago, of the deployment of certain police commissioners from different states, and Lagos was affected. But it was gathered that the new Inspector General of Police, who was enlisted into the force as of February 1st, 1986, as cadet assistant superintendent, and had attended several senior officer courses in law enforcement, crime prevention, control and management. Well, he was decorated yesterday as the new Inspector General of Police, the acting IG, and he reversed Idris's last-minute postings, precisely the one that affects us here in Lagos. Is the police commissioner, Lagos State Police Commissioner Imohime Echo. First, we saw the news that filtered in that said that he received signals from Abuja, but hence we have this clarity on the story. But take us through this.
Well, I mean, this is stemming from the recent appointment of Muhammadu Adamu, who is now the new acting Inspector General of Police. And you know, there's been a lot of talk of recent as well too, that the current or the previous or the past Inspector General of Police was going to be 60 anytime soon, and he was due for retirement, and there was a lot of clamor whether President Buhari was going to retire him or not. Well, good enough. On Tuesday, the previous Inspector General of Police was retired by President Buhari, and then that ushered in a new reign of Muhammadu Adamu, who's now the acting Inspector General of Police now. And of course, what you would normally see anyway when someone assumes office is that, of course, there's usually a lot of reshuffling going on. You would like to bring in your own team, your own trusted hands or so. And that is what we're seeing here, because what is currently going on as well too is that this article also mentions a lot of resignations or retirements that would also be taking place as well too, because we have about 7 deputy inspector generals of police, and there's a potential, there's every likelihood that there's going to be about 4 of them that will be retired as well too, along with the Inspector General of Police who has been retired already. So this now comes back to those redeployments that we were talking about on Monday that had been done, about, you know, several states that have been commissioners of police that have been deployed, and Lagos State was affected as well too, where a new commissioner of police was brought in as well too. And so right now at the moment what we're having is we're maintaining our status quo. There's going to be no redeployment across the country anyway, not only Lagos State. Now. Yes, for now anyway, until further instructions have been given by the new Inspector General of Police. But it raises a lot of questions. When you start to look at the situation, you start to ask, just as we talked about on Monday as well, why do we have just reshufflings just happening? This Inspector General of Police was amongst, it would have been amongst those that were in the system that would have decided on this redeployment. You know, it comes across as if this was a sole decision that was decided by the previous Inspector General of Police, and it wasn't like an institutional decision to reshuffle the police.
Well, some would argue that point, because it seems like, it's taken from your allusion that he would have been part of the decision-making process. We understand that the members who are facing or who might be forcefully retired form the, part of the members of the police management team, and it would be expected that those are people who give counsel, so to speak, to the former, or give counsel to the former Inspector General of Police. So, I mean, decision-making process, so to speak. I mean, don't you think that's the prerequisite of that police management team, and not necessarily the Inspector General of Police himself alone?
Exactly, yeah. So that's what we're saying the same thing as well. Too. If it's meant to be the prerequisite of the management team and not that of the inspector general, then you should allow it to pass then, because of course the departure of the previous inspector general of police shouldn't necessarily change the decision making of a team of people that collectively made that decision.
So here's my question: who forms the police management team? Is it the IG or a different body themselves?
Well, the IG is also part of the people that form it. Yes.
Hence, a new IG is in place.
Yes.
Doesn't it make sense? Is it rational to expect that he will form a new team?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
You don't necessarily have to form a new team. If you've come to a collective decision altogether, you would expect that. You would allow it to go through also. So I'm a little bit surprised. That's what you call institutional organization and things working accordingly. I mean, so it's a little bit baffling as well too, and it says a lot about our back and forth, and it doesn't actually put a lot of confidence as well too in the police. It comes across as if it's decisions are being made by solely one man, and it shouldn't always be the case.
All right, Bolano, thank you very much. Let's go to this next story. But a quick reminder here that you can send in your comments on these stories by WhatsApp. 0809-444-0981 is the WhatsApp number for your messages. We'll move on to premium times for this next one. Court nullifies compulsory retirement of officer by the Nigerian Army. So apparently the National Industrial Court in Abuja asserts in this case, they've made a decision to nullify the compulsory retirement of the Nigerian Army colonel. His name, Danladi Hassan. He said he was compulsorily retired on June 9th, 2016. He had served before that retirement, or forced retirement. He had served as an instructor, staff officer, and commander in the field before he was controversially disengaged with 39 other offenses. He took this case to court, seeking a redress and seeking a compensatory and exemplary damages to the tune of 1 billion naira. Take us through the story, Debo, and your thoughts about this.
Okay, here we have a very instructive case where the Nigerian Industrial Court in Abuja nullified the position of the army, the military. In June 2016, they dismissed about 39 officers on a certain reason. Now they were disengaged and retired compulsorily. Now some of the officers did, now having been dismissed from the army, becoming citizens of public citizens, took the issue to the court. And basically the issue here was their citing of how they were illegally and unconstitutionally dismissed based on the fact that if there was a dispute over whether the years of service was met between 18 and or 35. Now, what the court was saying, having invalidated the position of the army, was that the defendant, that's the army, could not prove with evidence that he had met or exceeded his years of service. Now, they're also claiming that their interpretation of Section 30 of the Army Act was wrong. That he had served he had served about 26 years. I think they were pushing towards 18. The Army Act was supposed to state that it was a 35-year service tenure. Now, the main issue here that I would like people to realize is that procedural matters are important.
Yes.
Here, the Army took up their own issue, even though they had a position. The citizen was enabled by the court process to be able to reverse it. So this leads us to instruction in terms of the glowing matter in the moment in the press, which is the CJN's issue in terms of procedure. At every point in time, procedures should be followed, irrespective of what position is taken by the NJC. The candidate or the person under question can still appeal or reverse the positions that institutional bodies take. And I'm happy that in this case the army officer won his case in court, and his retirement has been nullified. So we're hoping to see how the army takes a move from this and brings them back on board.
Thank you very much, Divo.
Okay, so this next story says EFCC denies raiding Onoghen's residence to sue Fani-Kayode, Odumakin for libel. This comes from The Guardian, and this story comes to you, Bola. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, I mean, this is another case of fake news being propagated, and of course, in modern age of technology now, everybody is a news reporter. I mean, we have the Twitter account now, and you can easily just tweet anything. You have WhatsApp as well to send messages. So what had happened was that, of course, when we had the case of Justice Onoghen with the Code of Conduct Tribunal matter that came up over the weekend between Friday and Monday, it was said that Fani-Kayode tweeted, I would quote or read his tweet. He said, "Why have the EFCC surrounded the home of CJ and Onoghen, and why are they seeking to arrest him?" Femi Fani-Kayode tweeted, "These people want Nigeria to burn. Why call off your dogs before it is too late? This is a democracy and not a Gestapo state. In the name of God, let this madness stop." So when you look at that as well, of course, that went viral and a lot of people were reacting to it as well. And then, of course, the EFCC had to respond to it to say, look, we haven't actually done that as well. So this is not within our purview at the moment. This is a case between the CJ and the Code of Conduct Tribunal or so. And they're also threatening, or they're actually saying that they're going to be suing Fani-Kayode as well for this, for all of this as well, for libel. So we'll wait and see what the outcome of that will be.
Let's quickly take a few messages here. MI from Akoka sent in this first one on WhatsApp. It says, "The acting Inspector General of Police has gotten the ball rolling in the most interesting way possible. The monetary reversal of the Lagos Commission seems to give some insight to his thinking. We watch with bated breath. Eku, I'll be fair to all political parties." And then Henry says, "Nepotism again. Must the IGP come from north? Hope when another regime comes and does the same thing, nobody should talk. We'll see in this country an eye for an eye." Thank you. Yinka says, "I bet the next major announcement of the Inspector General of Police would be all roadblocks be removed. But when an outing IG redeploys the Commissioner of Police in the last minute, is that not enough pointer? Some of these police postings can either be a favor of some sort of punishment. Shout out to the commissioners of police in all the northeastern states. They are the real CPs." Let's move on to this next story from Vanguarrd. NNpc raises alarm over increasing pipeline vandalism. From this story, from the report, we see that the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNpc, has bemoaned the rising incidents of pipeline vandalism in the country. Stated an insight into the October 2018 experience. It says that the pipeline network suffered the most at around that time. They said they recorded 42.9% increase in the incidence of pipeline vandalism in the country. What are your thoughts on this?
There's not much of a story here. It's just a performance report from NNpc that there's been a 42% increase in vandalization. How does that change the price of dairy in the market? Well, at the last time, I think they did mention that they were making moves to change the pipeline maintenance and security contract with the Ocean Marine.
Yes.
Up to this report doesn't state whether that move was made or whether that learning would be extended in this area, because they said the vandalizations were more around the Ibadan-Ilorin Express Highway, as well as the Aba-Enugu region. Now, they also gave performance reports on crude exports, PMS imports, gas generation. Now, what is the elephant that is missing in this room is how much was given for subsidy payments. That I would like to know, because that is actually one of the biggest leakages or drains on our economy and government capacity to be able to provide for all the other social amenities that they have promised us and we haven't been getting. I expect NNpc to be transparent in that regard, but here we go again. They haven't told us that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that one. Okay, so this next story is from the Telegraph. It says LAWMA takes over $15 million Visionscape trucks, and this is a directive that comes from the Lagos State House of Assembly. Your thoughts about this, Bilal?
Well, looking at the report from the Daily Telegraph, there's no need to be reporting that LAWMA is taking over.
New Telegraph.
Or from New Telegraph, anyway. There's no need to be reporting this because, as if by magic, overnight we just saw the Visionscape trucks that we used to see all over. It has completely disappeared off the streets of Lagos. I don't see it anymore. And all of a sudden, what I'm seeing now is that I'm seeing green trucks moving all about, but there's no more Visionscape written all over it. So yes, this article actually speaks and says that yes, the PSP operators and LAWMA are taking over a lot of all these utilities that were purchased for $50 million by Visionscape. And of course, we all know what the story of Visionscape was. It was brought in 2016, and the PSP operators were actually kicked out. So of course there was a lot of clamor, a lot of protest as well. And we had Lagos was really dirty because unfortunately the Visionscape did not envisage the amount of work that they were getting involved in also. So of course they were not able, or they didn't have the right skills to tidy or clean up Lagos also. So the streets were very dirty and there was a lot of complaint. Eventually the House of Assembly had to recall the PSP operators, and they are now back doing the job and trying to tidy up at the moment now. But it raises some questions. The questions that that it raises actually is that now that Visionscape is actually gone out of the picture now, what now happens? Because of course there was an agreement that was signed between Lagos State and Visionscape as well too for the operation and for cancellation as well too. And this article talks about a 50 billion naira agreement that was signed in case there was any cancellation, a breaching agreement.
Okay.
Yeah. So what's going to happen to that now? Is there going to be a lawsuit by Visionscape? A lot of all the employees have been sacked. We've been told that the MD is also out of the country at the moment, but there is current talks that is going on between their legal aid and the state government. So what's going to happen?
I'm glad you asked that last question, because that's really a cause for concern. But moving forward, let's take this next message here on WhatsApp. It says it's a Mecca from Victoria Island. How do you change guards when you know? I think it's speaking to the IGP issue. It says, how do you change guards when you know you have less than a week to leave office? It was not done in good faith, of course. The new IG did the right thing. It is good to maintain status quo until you have observed to see where the change might be required, since the head always receives the blame or the praise for anything going wrong or right, respectively. Emeka from Victoria Island, thank you very much for sending this one. He also says we all need to have a good look at our values as a country, and our institutions need to clean up their acts to deserve the respect from citizens of this great country. Our next story is from Thisday newspaper. This morning, governors stockpiling arms for elections, says the NATFORCE DG, and it's coming from the Director General of the National Task Force on Small Arms, Light and Chemical Weapons, NATFORCE, Dr. Emmanuel Quirky. He raised the alarm when he was speaking to some reporters. He said the alleged stockpiling of ammunition by desperate politicians ahead of the poll, which is in about 30 days or less, was facilitated by the porous nature of Nigeria's border and non-existence of a specific body to tackle the menace. There's been a lot of talk about the porosity of our borders for many months now. Devo, it seems like there's nothing being done about this to curb this issue. What do you think?
That Dr. Okirike's position. NATFORCE at the moment is still a task force meant to address the small arms, light and chemical weapons. Now he's saying that only Gambia and Nigeria are the only states out of the 16 West African countries that haven't established this commission, more or less like a regulatory body to drive this objective here. Now the bill currently is in the Senate, and he's asking them to expedite it because in the last administration they did not meet up to legislative requirements. That being said, this speaks to the boiling nature of our polity at this moment, because this is a government official stating that serving governors and political stakeholders are being currently alleged to have been stockpiling arms and ammunition.
So do you think by that statement is implying that he has information that he might not want to reveal about, the individuals particularly involved in this?
He does have information, but I think he's being guided by his guidelines, because at the moment he's not at the forefront of enforcement or any deliberation. That's why they're asking for this task force to be established completely and backed up by law.
But in the meantime, who should blow the whistle?
Well, the truth is, this is part of the intelligence gathering mechanism that we expect the government to take, advantage of. Now, remember, for some time now, there have been skirmishes all over the country. It's not just about the insurgency taking place in the northeast and the northwest. We also had many series without abate. That's the issue of the farmer-herdsman clashes. And if you remember, down south, the different ethnic and political disputes that have taken place.
That's right.
So, and the army has had several exercises and projects that are even still ongoing. So it's no surprise that, because towards an election, many times forces or opposition forces tend to settle scores. Now, I'm wondering and hoping that we get a security report towards this 30 days that the election is going to take place.
Okay.
Because if you remember in the last election, there were lots of flashpoints that were not controlled by our security forces.
Thank you very much, Divo. Quick message here from Khan Buhari in Lagos. It says, what supervisory role does the Police Service Commission do as regards promotion? How can an IG unilaterally make changes without consulting the Police Service Commission? That's a question we're all asking as well. AG from Arepo says, good morning. If I say I'm surprised about what's happening in the police force, I'll be telling a white lie. It is very obvious that our guy Idris was transmitting alone. If not, while this back and forth with deployments, Nigeria is a drama. 1 week, one drama. Martha sent in this one. It says, Inspector General of Police is not from the north, he's from the middle belt. And she also adds, how do I get the... Okay, thank you very much, Martha. We'll go to the next story.
Next story here is from this Thisday newspaper. It says federal government defers final decision on minimum wage, and they're saying a special federal executive council meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari in the State House yesterday failed to conclude decisions on the minimum wage. Also, it's coming off the back of the fact that they've launched a new Nigerian international passport with enhanced security and 10-year validity. Well, please walk us through this.
Oh, interesting. I mean, both stories are quite interesting. We're talking about a new 10-year passport, and which is long overdue anyway. Finally, if you look at, if anybody has been to the passport office to get your passport, you would know it's something that you really don't want to be doing every 5 years. If possible, if you can even do it every 20 years, you probably go for that option. I mean, it's like a meat market sometimes, and going over there to get your passport or so. But that aside, anyway, when we're talking about the decision on the minimum wage now at the moment, it's another deferral. I mean, government is just trying to see how far they can push this down the line or so. When they met at the Federal Executive Council meeting yesterday, it was decided that, you know, this matter is beyond the Federal Executive Council meeting, that it should actually be taken to the National Executive Council meeting, because the National Executive Council meeting is actually chaired by the Vice President with the governors as well too. And who are the people that are really kicking against this 30,000 minimum wage increase? It's the governors that are kicking against it. So they're saying now that the decision is now left to the governors to look into the matter as well and see what they can possibly do. So we're now waiting now for the National Executive meeting to be held, and for the governors to decide on this, on where the minimum wage will be set at.
All right, thank you.
Ostriches chasing ostriches. We're just passing the ball back to each other. No resolution. I hope NLC is ready to take a definitive position on this matter.
But do you see it as a decision that can be taken overnight, seeing that the government
They've had 4 years.
The government has been borrowing a lot of money.
They've not been able to cough up the money.
The governors have been crying out that they lack the funds to pay this. And remember, this minimum wage, if it's passed into law, it's something that's going to continue. It's not a one-time payment. So it planned,
in memory of our
standing plan has been put in place.
Late President Yaradua, government could have taken a position by cutting down their salaries. That's a move that speaks to, we're trying to do something. And I think NLC would have listened to that. But you see, as long as you stay with your high salaries, appointed public officials, you have to pay them as well.
That's another way to look at it.
Okay, so our final story. This one here says Governor Ahmed banned street rallies, campaigns in Kwara State, and it also comes from New Telegraph. Once again, please walk us through this. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, this also speaks to the boiling nature of the country. You see, at this point in Kwara State, they had a skirmish last week, almost like we had in Lagos during one of the rallies. So here, the governor, the chief security officer, in quotes, has come out to state that they will not allow a breakdown of law and order in Kwara State, that processions, rallies are meant to be peaceful. However, in light of what has happened, thuggery and all bunch of the violence that took place, they're banning political rallies. However, what they're allowing is approved rallies through the police, one. Two, they're also establishing a joint task force with the Army, the Civil Defense, and the National NDLA. Now, also, he said that the culprits who were part of the last mayhem will be captured. My question is when, because if you don't show examples, you don't leave much confidence for those who are looking to hold on to. Now, look, my question here is, what is the real temperature of the polity at this moment? You've just heard in the last stories that governors and political stakeholders are stockpiling arms. When you stockpile arms, what are you really planning for? What is the plan? Is it about, if you're not happy with the results? Is it about, even like we saw in the last election, where people are intimidated? Is it like what we saw in the primaries in Lagos State, where even some citizens were intimidated to stand on some certain lines? What is the real state of the polity? We need to understand. Many of the various factions in this country that are aggrieved have also promised to use this election to settle scores. This calls for leadership at this point in time. All the discussions on peace signing, etc., were surface level. The real state of mind of many of the actors within this country is at a dangerous level. And I hope that come this election, that transparency, INEC plays a very transparent role so as not to ignite the minds that are already brittle and ready to, to unleash. Because we really need our the umpire in this business to remain transparent. Because I can assure you, if they play the wrong way, or if they are perceived or seen as being compromised, many people will take the law into their hands.
And also curbing the inflammation of the elections, or emotions being spiking out of control, does not necessarily rest on INEC alone. It also rests on the shoulders of the leaders of such political parties, those who call for rallies, those who organize the boys to campaign for them. Every single one of them has to trickle down to the last member of such parties to make sure that peace just transcends through all the parties and the election process.
Most times we say that those who are being used in these elections should be careful, that the youth especially should not allow themselves to be bridled. It's actually a very late statement in the day. These people, to a large extent,
necessary.
It's necessary. They've been unemployed. They've been angry. They've not been paid attention to. So when you start to dangle carrots in front of them, you get that response. Politicians know this. Every 4 years, and even in between, they take this opportunity. So I really am looking forward to this election, and hoping that at the end of the day, not just that peace will prevail, but that objective mindsets will take the major presence within this election going forward.
So we still call on you, everybody who's listening, please get your PVCs.
It's too late.
No, it's not too late.
It's not so late.
There's still 8 million uncollected cards.
There's still calls from
cards.
Across different states for people to
I
come
will
collect their
look at mine.
PVCs. Bengals sent us a message on WhatsApp. He says, when has any statement from Fani-Kayode, Fani fake news Kayode, become a reference point to anything sensible and reasonable in the country? I hope he's severely dealt with, he says, and made example with the same measure that IG Adamu is being dealt with. This so-called freedom of speech must be exercised with responsibility. That's what Bengals says. That's a bit harsh, actually. But yeah, truth be told, we need to be responsible in the way we disseminate information and spread such news. But Lagos, we have this other tweet from Lori Africa on Twitter with the hashtag FreshlyPressed981.
She says, FFK tweet is simple. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. The EFCC also does this kind of media trial steady. And
so the EFCC also does this kind of media trial on a steady level. Thank you very much, Lori Africa, for sending that tweet in. Lagos, thank you so very much for listening to Freshly Pressed 981. Special thanks to our analyst who came in this morning, Bolaho. Thank you very much. As Mr. G Quest, that's what he's called as well on socials. And you can find Devo Courier with that same name at Devo Courier. Coming up next in 15 minutes, Lagos, we dive into sports for a Wednesday morning. It's Locker Room 981 next.